back, everyone. I am very, very excited to continue my conversation with Jason, the one and only ATV off-road rental company that you guys have to check out when you're in southern Utah. But today we're talking about business. And I'm asking this guy why us employee should consider different ways of perspective and ways to view the act of quitting your job to start a new job, or to I guess work for yourself. And he's going to explain to me what he thinks about whether it's worth it or not, and how you identify if it's even a fit for you, right? So what do you got, Jason?
I think you have to spend some time to decide mindset wise where you want to be, because working a job, you have some safeties, you have some guide rails in the way of some security. Obviously a job's never secure, but when you lock in a job and you can lock in a paycheck or a commission or whatever it is, you have a certain amount of risk that's typically will be passed to you, but it'll never exceed a certain level, right? You're an employee. If you don't like your job, you can quit, you can go somewhere else. If you don't like your situation, you want to level up, get a little more education, get a little more certificate, whatever it takes, you have a lot of control of where you're going to navigate to, and you have some guide rails while you do that. And that's a nice luxury. However, depending on what you want, what your focus and what your drive is, it's easy to get to the point where you're saying, man, I think if you take my guardrails off, I think I can go to the moon with this. Which, I mean, you can get lost on your way to the moon. So you're taking on a lot of risk, but you're absolutely right. You really can open that up. And so then, if that's your thing, if you're like, yeah, look, I think I'm wired for that, whether you're a risk taker or not, because you can be very calculated about being an entrepreneur. But you have to decide of, hey, do I like that? Go and work for a boss. It doesn't have to be a clicking, it doesn't have to be a punch in the time clock. There's lots of jobs that don't do that. But you aren't shouldering the risk of the business. And a lot of people like that. They like that security, trying to raise a family, trying to get going. Where when you're an entrepreneur, you're saying, hey, I'm gonna take that off, I'm gonna go for it. There's gonna be some risk involved, calculated, not calculated. But either way, you're taking on a risk that now you own. And as a small business owner, whether you own a business and you run it and it's an operation, it's an asset, it doesn't run you, or whether you're a small business owner and you're the only employee, and if you don't show up for work, no money's made. So basically you own a job. And if you hate that job, it's kind of hard to quit, right? Turn in your resume to your boss, or your resignation to your boss, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you start getting depressed emotionally, personally, because you're the only one to go to. You're the only one that has you held up, so you're the only one that can fall back on.
Yeah. But you also might thrive in that situation, right? You might thrive and be like, I control my own fate. I can go anywhere I need to.
It's an undefined destination outside of yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's three levels of business. There's working for somebody else, and then there's working for yourself, and then there's having other people work for you. And when a lot of employees switch from working for other people and then to working for themselves with ego, and then it takes humility to pop back in the other way. You know, it takes extreme humility to hire a team to run your baby, your new business, right?
Yeah.
And so when I think of that, a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs in general get stuck in that middle, and they sit there and watch Instagram reels of how to get better in that realm. And they don't take the time to just take a step back and hire someone else to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the billions are the people over here. The third category is the billions, right?
Yeah.
At least from what I've studied. And so you got the 6-figure, 7-figure, whatever, you know, the highest paid workers, and then you got some people do 8, 9, 10-figure, whatever you do here, and then it's just insane amount of money. It goes that you'll switch. And Robert Kiyosaki says, how do I switch the side of the banker table I'm on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of pulling the loan, I want to give the loan. Right. So what do you say to like a 16-year-old that can't quite sign papers yet, but needs to start getting their mindset on the path? So if they're rebels from school and they don't like being told what to do, they're likely going to excel in anything that is not what they were told to do. So either that's going to be substance abuse or too much of something that is unhealthy, or laziness, gaming, any of that. But if they're young and they're ambitious and they're always told to do one thing, and they choose, I'll do anything that I'm not told to do, then they end up going like corrupting their brain.
Yeah.
But what do you say to like a 16-year-old that needs to crack into that?
Oh man, there's so many different directions, so many different things you could say. I think going back to the core of your 3 categories, being in that second category, working for yourself can be great, and you can make a ton of money, have great success, have freedom, have the ability to make those choices and be a one-man show, right? Trades do it, insurance agents, there's a lot of different categories that fit that, and it works really, really well for them. At that point, you still just own a job and you're working it, and for that might be a really, really great fit. But if you're a 16-year-old and you're looking at that business owner, that CEO, that guy has learned to put systems in place. And then he manages the systems instead of managing the product of the business, right? So it's as simple as this, like my ATV business, right? A very high percentage of off-road businesses as they start, they're owner-operators. It's some dude that's like, I love to play outside, I'm gonna do this as a business. I'm gonna have my buddies come out, I'm gonna rent a machine, and he's there, and he's working his guts out, he's taking people out, he's doing the books, he's fixing the machines, he's doing everything, right? It's like, you wanna be an entrepreneur, great. The beauty of that is you get to pick which 80 hours of the week you get to work, right?
Which 80 hours for the work.
Right, yeah. So how you get from being that guy running that off-road business to now running employees, and now it's an asset, it's a business you own, is you have to put systems in place. You got to start hiring people. You have to organize what your product is. You have to organize what the flow of information, all the back end stuff like taxes and bookkeeping and insurance and permits and licenses and all those things. At some point you have to hire somebody, teach them, train them, instill in them the ability to start handing things to them and know that they'll take care of it. And the beauty is you can start small. So you hire one guy, then you hire 2, then you hire 3. You're not gonna get much past 5 or 6 without going crazy unless you have built a process or system that you're now plugging them into, and the system, the processes manage what they do each day. And then you start to step back, and now you're managing the process and the system. You don't like what that employee's doing, well, tweak the process or the system, right? So now you're here, before you know it, you won't be the guy out running around doing the tours, helping out in the shop, doing all those things. You'll be managing the systems that facilitate those, right? So you'll never get past 5-ish employees, give or take a few, until you have systems that can help run what those employees do each day.
Yeah.
In the trades, this is really big, right? You're framing a house.
Oh yeah.
How many guys can you run when you're having to tell every guy every little thing to do?
And
a handful at best.
And pay the apparel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. So back to the 16-year-old. If the way I think of this is, I can skip the middle part. I can go from an employee to an investor.
But there's an education that has to take place there. And whether you go to school, I'm not a huge fan of institutionalized education, and I'm not talking your textbook education. I'm talking maturity and knowledge to understand what it takes to get there. And that comes in a lot of different ways. Okay. Some people are early adopters, some people are late, but there's an education. That education can be shorter and less expensive, or it can draw out for years and you can lose money and make a lot of bad decisions and it becomes really expensive, right? That's the key to skipping the middle.
Yeah, so my personal life, I deal in all 3 categories. I excavate, operate, because we need it.
Yeah.
Then I manage the business because I signed up for it. And then I collect rent checks for my houses that are passive income. Yeah. Right? So I actively deal in all 3, but I would say it's pretty diversified. And obviously I'm super young and I'm just getting started, but with my point being, you barely said we have to go through the middle, which is fine. But can we go through there realizing that we're getting through there, not stopping in there?
Absolutely. I absolutely think that from the beginning, you have to understand that there's systems and processes that you have to utilize. The beauty with real estate is that a very high percentage of those processes and systems are already defined for you. And you just have to overcome the barrier being money or means to acquire that piece of real estate. There's a lot of ways to do that, and you can do it much younger than most people think, which I mean you've experienced. And real estate is a beautiful kind of package system of really great passive income that you can get into very early. The downside of the real estate though is sometimes it's easy enough to get into that if you haven't structured it in a way, markets change, things change, you can experience a very devastating effect of that.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be careful.
Because it's super high ticket.
It can be.
It's high stakes.
Yeah.
It's either going to win big or lose big, or maybe break even. But
let me just give you a quick example. I bought my first house when I was 24.
Okay.
Bought it in an auction, and immediately turned around and took out a line of credit on it for 50 grand. Went out and bought 6 other houses, and basically put $5,000-ish down on one of those houses, and just started going. I was flipping some of them. I was renting some of them. I was stretched thin financially, right? Got a little bit into that, had a few little close calls with not having money and capital to do a few things, and I went, okay, I'm too thin on this. I backed off. I sold a couple of those flippers, fixed them up, flipped them, held on to the rentals, and I said, okay, I need to make sure I have a nice buffer to just deal with life. I still got to provide for a family and some kids. The market is fluctuating. How I can finance is fluctuating. All of a sudden, some of the creditors were like, we're not going to finance you if you have over 3 rental properties unless you have a multi-million-dollar net worth. So I was like, dang, I can't buy another house now because I can't find a lender.
Oh,
and
man.
so some of those changing things, I had to pace myself. And then 07 comes along, and I did really, really well through that, but lots of people were destroyed through 07, 08 when the housing market collapsed. Lenders quickly tightened up, leverage changed everything. If you weren't in a really well cash to value position, your real estate just got decimated. You were bankrupt.
Dude, 3 months ago, I was 22 years old.
Yeah.
And I bought my 5th house. And I used all of my cash reserve for the down payment.
Yeah.
I kid you not, 2 days later it flooded.
Yeah.
And my other one flooded, and my tenants backed out, and my this, and my that, and all this stuff came down on me, and I'm 22 years old, and I got way too many houses and not enough cash.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this will never happen again in this life.
Great lesson.
And you learned it at 24, you know,
Yeah.
the exact same thing.
The beauty is yours won't. So sure, you're getting your education. That probably won't be too expensive though, because you caught it and learned a pieces of it at the right time.
Yeah,
and that's the hope too. The hope is that you're quick to fail fast, fail hard, and recover, but don't get so deep in something that if the worst case scenario is bankruptcy, you are too far into it.
Yeah.
You're too highly exposed. And so I love real estate. Great investment, great way to get in stuff, and it is a way to skip over that. The key is having the cash flow, but you have the cash flow from your other business.
Yeah.
So your cash flow has made that possible, which
We
is
spend-
awesome.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time downstairs here at the Startups with Stu Retreat talking about AI replacing anything to do with a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, if you log into a computer and you're not using AI today, either plan on your job being 50 times easier in 2 years, or else it not even existing.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be 100% automated by something that's going to be invented probably tomorrow that we haven't heard about, or it's already out and they just haven't marketed it.
Yeah.
You know, that's been incredible. So trade schools, obviously, that's going to trip out most of the back end of a trade company. You know, so half your office staff's out of business with payroll, and you know, if you could just say, chat, you know, pay all my employees a 2% raise today. You know, then it would just be a clock and numbers and be done.
Yep.
What do you think people are switching? Like if we're going through this phase of business ownership, a lot of people start a low barrier to entry business, not even recognizing that they have literally infinite amount of competitors. So in my space, I get a lot of people saying, I do real estate photography. You know, and I'm just like,
Everybody does.
So did 85 other people that literally messaged me today. Right. So I do videographer or photography for real estate. It's like I also do that with my phone, and 3D plans that are built by AI. You know, that's going to be replaced immediately. But other people say I do cleaning business, and I'm like, by all means, we need those, but So does everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you recommend people test the market before they jump in, like before they quit their job, even if there's some kind of way that they can start a side hustle without getting too distracted to get fired?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do they do that?
You just absolutely have to take a little bit of time. This goes back to that education, and whether you go read a book or talk to mentors or whoever, you have to understand the workings of what you want to do. And it's really easy to just get excited about something and see an entry point, especially if it's a low barrier of entry, right? And you just go for it. You just go for it. And the challenge with that is at some point, you're going to learn what you don't know, and hopefully it's not violently. And so, if you spend time ahead of time and you ask the questions, what does it take to make this business run? What's the potential upside? What's the potential downside? What is going to affect this in a positive, negative way? How do I succeed? How do I transition to being a business owner and not just owning my job? Is that even a possibility? There's some businesses that are incredibly easy to own and start, but way more difficult to work out of and not have to be an owner-operator, right? A lot of the trades are this way. It's challenging, easy to get into. You're like, yeah, I know how to put down tile. I can sheetrock, right? So next thing you know, you own yourself a job and you're working away. You're like, I'm self-employed. I'm living the dream. I love it. I got 2 or 3 guys working for me. But then the step that actually backs you out of it, where you're not the guy hanging the sheetrock anymore, you're just the guy running all the behind stuff, and then it keeps
And
going.
then everybody quits and starts their own.
Yeah, and next thing you know, you're hanging sheetrock. Yeah. So how do you get to the point where you're sitting in Cancun on your computer doing payroll while your guys are sheetrocking a house, right?
Not going to happen in certain industries.
It's just way harder. It's possible.
Yeah.
Way harder to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that mindset that, hey, trades is easy point of entry, but is it going to get me to where I want to be? And if not, then take that into consideration. There's nothing wrong with trades. You can make great money in the trades. You can have a great life, and if that's what you love. But if you're a guy that's like, I just want to own assets and I want passive income, trades are tough.
They're not very passive, yeah. I've seen success.
And they're hard to exit too.
Very hard to exit. I literally had a conversation with Stu this morning. I said, Stu, I own blue collar. I do 12 million a year.
Yeah.
My biggest competitor is worth like billions.
Yeah.
They're literally down the street and they're worth billions.
Yeah.
We've been talking about buying and selling businesses for the past couple of days, but why would I ever be able to sell a trade business to another trade owner other than them just removing me from their market, right? And if that's all their motive is, they're going to offer low money.
Mm-hmm.
So trades, sheetrock, if you could just hire more employees and buy more pallets of sheetrock and scale your own business, then why would you go out and buy your competitor out?
You wouldn't. You never should.
And therefore,
Yeah.
Trade business, like you said, it's not valuable to a sell.
Yeah. It's like, a cabinet business. I worked with a friend of mine who I helped consult the valuation on the cabinet business. It had been his family his whole entire life. His dad owned it. Amazing business, did amazing work, and it's pretty specialized to be able to do it well. But to try to sell that, try to package it up and sell it, you got to convince some other guy that's outside of just putting in cabinets, because you can go spend some time and learn how to do really nice finish work and go buy some cabinets. Next thing you know, you're a cabinet installer. You have to convince him that what you have is so unique and valuable and non-replaceable that it's worth paying for. And that's really hard to do. So your big competitor in the construction world, right? He's built a big, huge conglomerate. And there's probably real value to that because of the relationships, the contracts, the longevity, the amount of equipment.
Yeah.
And he could probably sell that. But until you get to that level, all that lower level stuff is really hard. Because someone's like, yeah, why would I pay for it? Well, I'll just go buy a tractor and a nail gun, and I'll be doing the same thing you're doing next week.
Yeah.
And it costs me nothing but the tractor and the nail gun.
I cringe when somebody quits a 6-figure and starts a job that costed them less than a week of their payroll to start.
Yeah.
You're sitting there.
Barrier of entry is a big deal.
If it's easy to enter, everyone's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone's doing it, nobody wants to pay you extra unless you're like exceptional quality for average price.
Now,
you have to prove that.
And those can be okay, right?
Yeah.
Lawn care. How easy is it to get into lawn care? Just
400
mowing a
bucks.
lawn.
Yeah, I could rent one for
Yeah.
20 bucks.
Yeah.
Rent a mower for 20 bucks in a day. I could
Now,
make a couple $100.
yep, the beauty is a lot of lawns to mow.
And there always will be.
Yeah, you can find money, you can find jobs, revenue. That's the beauty of the country we live in. But if you're like, no, I want to be a business owner, I want to own an asset, lawn care is not your thing, right?
So I actually wrote about this in my book. If a 15-year-old is walking down the street and another 15-year-old is mowing the lawn, I'm just saying they both had the same opportunity and one took it the other day, right? So I want to go back over to opportunities. When you see something, mentioned earlier, you just watch for things that drop at your feet as an opportunity, and you pick them up and maximize your ability to add value to society with it, and then it just ends up making you money. And oftentimes it reminds me that anything, like money is just a byproduct of doing the right thing, taking up opportunity. And it's proof, like luck is just the intersection of when you're willing to do it and when there's an opportunity to do it, you know? So tell me a little bit about picking up an opportunity for like a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old. I mean, maybe it's 18, so it's not too young of age, right? What do you do when you're walking down the street? Most 18-year-olds are saying, but somebody already does that. But somebody already does that, washing windows. People do that. It's like, I get it that people do that, but people aren't you.
Right. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with somebody else doing it. One of my first businesses, I was starting it as, I had my first business I did, well, I'm not sure if my first business I did is pretty funny, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate for your podcast, but it's hilarious. What?
I don't know if it is either. You have to decide. They're pretty young viewers. A lot of these are 12-year-olds.
I'll tell you later. It's pretty funny though. But it was my young entrepreneur spirit. So as a young adult, my first business was just doing spray in bed liners, just spraying in the bed liner.
Okay.
And for me, that was kind of fun. That was kind of cool. I was learning, but at the end of the day, I still had to figure out like if that was my thing or not, right? So maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But when it comes back to opportunity, there's a couple components. Is you got to figure out, you got to have yourself in a place where you can take advantage of an opportunity. So managing yourself mentally, managing yourself financially. You don't have to have a lot of money, but if you just went out and bought that car that was too expensive and you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're scrapping by, when an opportunity comes by and it may need $1,000 to get it going or to take it over, you don't have that. Well, you've already put yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
Right? So having a little bit, being in a place, time, focus, money-wise, that you can take advantage of an opportunity. It's who you know as well, right? If you're just saying, oh man, that guy looks, he's making money, I want to do what he does. Well, he didn't just get there because like it just happened one day. Right place, right time. And so as you position yourself, network, work hard, if you're not willing to work, you're not going to come across opportunity. You're just not. So if you're just like, I just want to make millions and do nothing, it's not going to happen. So get a little bit of money, start educating yourself, start networking, start talking, start asking, start putting yourself out there, and I guarantee opportunities will open up to you. Just because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And that may not be the opportunity that you retire from, but it'll be the one that helps you take the next step, right? Opens more doors, more relationships, you learn more, you mature more, you make a little bit more money. So then when the $20,000 opportunity comes along, you're like, yeah, no problem, right? You do that when you work that one. 3 or 4 more years later, you've made some money, you've learned. Now when that $100,000 opportunity comes along, you're there. So when I bought the ATV business, let's see, I would have been 36 years old. I'd had a career of being a financial advisor. I'd owned a few other small businesses. And it came along and I mean, I needed $100,000 to buy a portion of the business. The rest was going to be owner financed. And I had to come up with that. And so most of it I was able to write a check for, but some of it I had to go to the bank for. But when I talked to the bank, they're like, yeah, you got a good work history, you got a good record, you got a good credit score. They're like, yeah, you need some money? Here you go, no problem. Turn around and bought the business, right? But I positioned myself to get there. And then also mentally, I had learned, I had had 4 or 5 other small little business ventures that had taught me a lot. They didn't give me a lot of money. They didn't really cost me a lot of money either, but I had learned the education. So then when this one came along, I knew every question to ask. I'm like, let me see your books. Let's see your P&L, let's see your balance sheet. Like, let's see your product, let me see your shop, let me see your people. And I just went in and I was like, yeah, okay, and that opportunity came along just because we had started another business and then we connected with this owner to help her fix a few things with her business just because we were willing to help. And after that and helping build that relationship, she was now like, hey, would you guys buy this business from me? You know how often I have people be like, you have the dream job. How do I get this job? Like, how do I get this business? Well, I got it because I built the relationship and I was in the right place, right time, and I had an opportunity to open up and I was prepared for it, and I walked through that door.
Yeah. So I actually, it cracks me up because I go into a room of millionaires and I realize they are all in the same rat race as I am. I'm just 3 zeros behind.
Yeah.
You know, so if there's 3 sections, there's work for somebody else, work for yourself, have other people work for you. If you're in the middle and you're just in the first beginning, your challenge is going to be the same here as here, just add a bunch of zeros and a lot more experience, right? So, for example, like you mentioned, the being prepared at each level. So maybe you have $5 grand. I was having a conversation with a young man and he said, I'm ready to invest. What should I buy? And I said, how much money you got? He's like, I have $3 grand saved up. And I'm like, unless you're going to quit your job, it sounds like a perfect time to just keep saving, because when you have 10 grand, we can actually use it to make 12 grand and 12 grand to make 15 grand, right? But when you have 3 grand, it's really hard to turn it into 4 grand, you know? And once you have 100,000, it's super, it's probably mid as far as, at least I think it's.
Well, the opportunities that you can take advantage of opens up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 grand, they're just really limited.
Everybody's competing for that deal.
Yeah. Well, the ones that you actually doable to you are also available to all the other guys at $3,000, right?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And then if you have 100,000 sitting and you say, hey, I'm gonna invest 100 grand, then you're able to sit, like you said, your competition for a deal is way less.
Yes.
So now you hand 100 grand out, and then it comes back at 120 grand. Then you hand that out at 160. You know, but $1 million, it's probably like even more. You know, $1 million, I'll bet your competition's even that much less, and now you're competing with very few people. And then you hand $1 million out and get like 1.5 million. You know, your return's going to be bigger.
And don't forget that in that process, you're going to have a few knockbacks. You're going to have a few bad deals. You're going to lose a little money. You'll be like, yeah, that business was not what I thought. You're going to have a few, and that's an education, and that's okay, because those, I promise, you'll actually learn the most out of all the rest.
Because you're most focused, hyper focused. Like your energy is hyper focused on what in the world went wrong right here. You know?
The most powerful things that have happened to me in my life from an education standpoint have happened when things went wrong, right? I haven't revamped my business because it was successful. I revamped my business because I was having some major problems. So the most powerful things that will happen in change is because of negative things, right? Because you're like, man, the market's changed. I'm gonna lose my business. I gotta go all in. I gotta pivot. Right? That's what forces you. When you get to successes, you're like, sweet, I just want more successes. Like, it doesn't do anything for you other than get just more money.
And it's
those changes are also what's going to open new doors too.
Yeah.
So welcome change.
I oftentimes tell people my number one business challenge right now is humility. My number one trait in my life is staying humble and remembering that God has a bigger plan, and He also has no respect for me if I'm proud of myself for that kind of stuff. But sometimes I think about this very thing, and dude, I learned when my house is flooded, two months later, I lost $23,000 in crypto.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these guys said, at least you had $23,000 to lose, you know, and I'm like,
doesn't make it hurt any less.
It hurts the same bad as dumping your coffee out when that's all you can afford. Like, when you lose all your money, it's all your money. You know, it doesn't matter how many zeros were behind it. At least that's what I learned. I thought I learned. And see, I'm just getting started. Tomorrow, I'm hoping to be barely smarter so that I can avoid that one I would have lost if I wouldn't have sat down with Jason and had a very great conversation. You know, because the way you're pointing this out to me makes me think I should scrutinize deals before I start even harder. You know, I should go sit with Jason about, hey, what do you think about this? At least at least run it past like 5 or 10 more people than I thought. Because if I could save that
Due
23
diligence.
grand, I'm
Due
done.
diligence. Yeah.
If I could just save that money, I'd be like, I mean, if I'd have met you, so we had great conversations last night. If I would have met you 3 years ago, I wouldn't have bought the 5th house in 2025. You know, I would have kept it at 4 and kept some cash.
Yeah.
But the conversations we had here, incredible about financial, like you said, you grew up in financial advisor, and you saw millions and millions of dollars ruin people.
Yep.
Like, tell me the youngest guy that you saw with money
Man, I had this like 26-year-old kid who won the lottery.
at the literal lottery.
Well, one of the tickets of the lottery was
Okay.
about like $400,000.
$400,000. He was 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just destroyed him. Like he just sat and spent 5,000 a time, 5,000 a time. Every dumb little thing. My car needs a new turbo. I need a new set of wheels. My girlfriend decides she wants a better car. And it was a mindset that he's like, I have plenty. And so I just watched him whittle it and whittle it. He came across my table at about 200,000 because he realized he'd blown half of it. So he's like, I need to get a financial advisor to help tell me how to manage this. And so we got him all set up. And for the next 2 years, I just watched him 5,000 at a time. I remember when he came and got his last $5,000. Like I did a disbursement for him out of his investment account.
That's cringe.
Gone. So in 3 years, blew up every bit of it.
That makes me cringe.
And he was no different.
Dude, I've worked for 4.5 years to build up what I have. And in the next month, I'll crack $1 million equity. And I tell you what, you ain't taking it out in 2 months. I'm not spending it in 2 months.
Yeah.
I have to force myself. Sometimes I have to buy stuff that holds value because otherwise I'll spend it, you know. I run into a lot of people, and I suffer with some of this where you get a raise and it's like, we gotta upgrade the car, you know.